What's going on, basketball fans? I am joined by the beautiful Krystals in the building. No, don't smile now. How you doing?
Good. How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. So, cooked up a special topic for me and you to talk about, and this one is going to be a little bit more introspective than what I tend to do here. But hey, nonetheless, let's do it.
Thank you for tuning in to the number one place for your daily basketball fix, NBA Central, hosted by the one and only CEO Haize.
I
Yep.
wanted to ask, who's been more influential in the game of basketball in the last decade? Steph Curry or LeBron James? Now, I think this question on surface level may be people may rush to answer it quickly. I wanted to have a little bit of a deeper conversation with it. When you hear that question, what comes to mind? What's your initial feeling on it?
I think impact or is a more than just the game of basketball, to me.
Mm-hmm.
So and kind of what you do off the court too, and just kind of what that whole thing looks like. And so I think both have, you can make an argument for both, which I plan on doing so.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. All right, so let's start there then. Like, just initially, like, what's your answer to the question? Give me your case for whatever you want to start with.
So I will say, so initially, I think I, so I think Steph Curry was my first answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in my head, I felt like the way that basketball is played now versus 10 years ago is a lot different um, than it is, right? So he kind of changed like his whole 3-point game in general,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I think there was some like weird or kind of fun fact was like 10 years ago or like 12 years ago. I think out of all the shots taken, about only 20% of them were 3-point shots. And then now we're looking at closer to like 40, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, Steph's been in the league, what, like 13, 14 seasons or something like that.
Yeah.
So the majority of that is, I think a lot of this is kind of how he plays and kind of how he's been playing and how, now teams kind of live and die by the three.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that has to do with, him and people kind of figuring, or teams kind of figuring rather, obviously if we can get more 3-point shots off, we can hopefully make more because threes are more, worth more than two. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the logic. I just think, unfortunately, a lot of teams kind of fall short of that because of just the way that Steph Curry makes threes, how he's able to create that opportunity. Um, and then like him like passing like Ray Allen's record like in like 500 less games or something crazy. Like it's just
Yeah.
what he's able to do is crazy. And even now, like I mean, obviously, I have a son in 8th grade and I'll go to his games and these kids are like trying to, bank half court shots in the middle of a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of he's impacted the NBA, but also just how kids are trained and and what they're doing on the court to kind of mimic what he does. And
Mm-hmm.
so but you just can't always duplicate what he does because it's just different. But yeah, so I mean that's kind of a part of my argument for Steph.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for LeBron, I think the idea of a super team kind of started with him, really, to me, like, right. So the idea of going to a team with the sole purpose of I'm going to this team to win a championship versus let's just see what we can kind of put together to hope to win a championship. It was
Mm-hmm.
like more deliberate and really kind of looking at basketball as a business. Like I think when people used to make a big deal about when he left Cleveland originally and people were so up in arms about it, I was like, this is like a job like anything else. So if you're not happy where you are or you feel like there's more growth somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you're going to go. You know what I mean? At some point he kind of, I wouldn't even say overstayed his, definitely not overstayed his welcome in Cleveland, but he had to do what he had to do. And that became a thing, right? Because then after that you have, KD joining the Warriors and then, and Brooklyn trying to do that with Kyrie and James Harden and just lost track of his name in my head. But yeah,
Kyrie.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I think he changed a lot of that. Like, and then off the court, of course, everybody knows what LeBron is. He's essentially the face of the NBA, right? And so watching that progression and kind of what he's been able to do to kind of maybe a mogul within the game, within the basketball, is pretty cool to watch too. But if I'm going like merely just game, merely NBA, merely basketball, it has to be Steph Curry to me. Because I think the teams are just, live and die by the three. Like people going to the paint now is like, you're excited when you see that.
I think for me, it's Steph as well, and I didn't initially think that that's where I get with it. Like you said, focus just on the game of basketball. You have to look. Steph Curry changed the whole way. Like, yeah, LeBron changed in the fact of making it more comfortable for superstars to join up together. But when you look at the total way that the game is played across every level now, it tries to imitate Steph Curry. I think what it is this is, and maybe this is an oversimplification on my part, but what LeBron can do physically in the game of basketball isn't something that everybody can see themselves doing. More so, everybody can feel like, even though it's not true, but everybody feels more comfortable. Like, hey, if I focus on becoming a really, really good shooter, I can shoot the way Steph does.
Yeah.
I can never physically dominate a game the way LeBron does because I just don't have those physical tools.
Right.
But I can believe in myself that I can turn myself into a shooter rather than I can what LeBron does. And I think it's just that simple when you boil it down. And when, like you said, you see AAU, high school, heck, even kids in beginning basketball, like they try to imitate Steph Curry. Coaches now coach to the 3-point game is something you can do as soon as you cross half court for some people. So that's the way that I look at it. Like I can make an argument for LeBron all day, but just the game of basketball, it's hard for me to say it's not Steph Curry over LeBron James as far as changing the game.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, and obviously that takes nothing away from LeBron, but like you said, he just has the physical capacity to do things that people can't do, and like that's okay. And so, and me being, I've been a Steph fan since he was at Davidson, so I watched a lot of that progression of, like how he played, and I remember thinking and seeing him play and being like, he's about to be special. And this is before he was even, lights out shooting the way that he is now. But I just knew because you could tell he just has those mechanics. Like he has it almost down to a science, which is sick. I mean, he's like shooting 3-pointer. I mean, he's shooting baskets from the tunnel. Like, what are we doing? Like, that's not even who does that? Like, who can make make them consistently? So, and I think he's even like the most accurate 3-point shooter too, which is interesting because his dad, Dale Curry, before I think his last season, he was too, like in the 40% or something like that range. So, it definitely lends itself to, if, like you said, if I really work hard, if I really practice, if I really do this, I can be more like Steph Curry versus LeBron was, anybody who's, 30 and up, like when I was in high school, they were talking about LeBron because we graduated the same year, actually, I think. And to be from California, knowing who this guy was all the way in Ohio was just kind of crazy. So like his whole like being was just different. And it did change in terms of, him being, 18 or, whatnot, coming out of, high school to play. And, but people had done that prior to him. Right. So it wasn't like he was that guy for that. But I mean, for basketball itself, I mean, it's definitely Steph, and you could tell when teams play Golden State, if they do not play their game, and if they are trying to chase that same three, I mean, you're going to get outshot. They're going to outshoot you every time. Like he will outshoot you every time. Gone are the days where you're only getting 3-pointers off a screen or playing away from the ball. Like he can just like run around 4 different people and just shoot it from half court and make it. And you're just like, how do you like what? It's not fair. It's not fair.
I think if you also look at the fact how when Steph came, his first 5 or more years in the league, he still wasn't Steph Curry then. I think some people forget that, like, he had to have the coach that trusted him to allow him to shoot the amount of threes that he did. And even that alone was, at that time, like we've come so accustomed to it. Steph Curry didn't average double-digit shooting threes. I think it was to the 2014-15 season. And it took to have a coach that's like, oh, no, that's not wrong. If that's part of your game, let's go ahead and incorporate that into your game. And once Steph was able to feel comfortable in doing that and kind of had the keys to shoot threes as much as him and Clay have, it really changed the dynamic not only of that team, but that's when you started seeing it change in the NBA. And I don't want to make this a Steph Curry love party, but like like we don't see it often, a player that completely changes the way that the game's played. We see players that dominate in the game, but it's
Right.
very rare that we see that it really changes basketball as a whole in this way.
Right. I mean, like I said, that I think when I was, like I said, that stat about it 10 years ago, 20% or 20, I think it was like 22%. And now we're at 40% of shots being threes. Like, and literally that's in the time that he's been, doing this. So it's kind of like, well, sheesh, like if that's the case, then it's literally his era that kind of started that. And so, now like I said, it lends itself to, you got all kinds of, you got Draymond out there shooting threes. Like, I don't know what is going on. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Well, Draymond forgot how to shoot now. Like,
yeah, right. But I'm like, I was like, Draymond shooting threes. Like, this is it's bad. So I mean, it's great for him, and I think it's cool for basketball too. But people can make arguments for both and say that it's not, like the game that a lot of us grew up seeing. Like now, teams are putting up all-star game scores for a regular game. Like,
scoring is wild in the NBA right now.
It's like 120 to 150. I'm like, what the like? This is an OT. Like, we used to see games that were like 80. 90 points was like, if you broke 100 points in a game, that was a big deal. Now that's like normal. Now.
Yeah, and I think it was a couple of seasons ago. I can't remember where the team that shot the fewest amount of threes that season would have actually led the NBA like 10 or 15 years ago, which is wild. Yeah, it's just wild to think how that's changed. Now, do want to talk about LeBron some because we talked about Steph in the game, but outside the game, just the game of basketball, we're talking about entrepreneurship, everything that goes in, activism. LeBron is the front runner of that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what he kind of displays, like I said, him being able to be the face of the NBA, because let's be clear, like I always think about, of course, Bulls fans, you guys love, Michael Jordan, and that's fair, right? But Michael Jordan wasn't known to be a philanthropist, right? Like Michael Jordan wasn't known to be, to speak on activism. Yeah, like, I just want to play ball, sell these shoes, and that's it for $300. It's fine. Yeah. That wasn't, his goal to be that. So, and then even like with your Kobe's, I mean, Kobe he does stuff, but it wasn't the same as like it's so LeBron's also the king of like media. Like he's very he knows how to utilize that, but he also comes up in the time that in this age range where we've kind of we were here for the inception of all that, right? But he's people look at him as a great father and a great husband, and and he's doing all this stuff in the community and building schools, and I mean, you can't take that away from him. And I think if we had more players that did that and that it was showcased as much, I feel like, that would spark some stuff. And I feel like it has, though. Like, I feel like, you even have like, of course, like Kyrie's dying on every hill every week. Bless his heart, right? Like for for change and, and whatnot. And so you're starting to see it more, and players are starting to be more comfortable doing it because it's like, okay, if the face of the NBA can do it, okay, I can have a voice with this too, right? So I think that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, he's the face of the player empowerment movement because he's not only for I'm going to play where I want to play, him even the years that he was taking the 1-year contracts after 1-year contracts to keep the franchise honest, but like everything that he's done, like I have my issues with LeBron on the court, and that's just my thing as somebody who watches the game of basketball. But I can't, as a father, as an activist myself, as somebody who cares about my culture, you can't take anything away from LeBron James in that area. Like I would defend LeBron to the cows come home with his activism things. And I love it that when there's something in the league, people kind of look and wait towards to see, all right, when is LeBron going to speak on this? Yeah, and he sets that tone. So
I mean, I think he just did it like recently, right? Like he think something about somebody had asked him about Kyrie, and he was like, like, y'all ain't talking about Jerry Jones. Like, what's up? Keep that same energy. You know what I mean? Like, and that's cool because a lot of people would be really like not be kind of scared to say that, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? And so he doesn't care. And of course, people could say, oh, he has millions. But I'm like, there's, quite a few people from an entertainment standpoint, athlete standpoint that have millions of dollars and they would never say it, right? Like, you don't see any Cowboys players speaking out saying, this and that. But he has no problem going right up to it and saying it and standing on it. And so I think for that, like I said, you can't deny what he's done in that way. And he's definitely used his platform for the right reasons, which is pretty cool to see.
Absolutely. It goes all the way back to the I Can't Breathe shirt in warmups.
Yeah.
Like
First person to do,
just
yeah.
wearing it. Yeah. So and I like you said, he doesn't shy away from it. So many of the athletes that we kind of I can say for me that I looked up to, they back in the 90s, they just didn't embrace it. And I understood why, right? That's not an indictment on them and anything. It was a completely different era. You definitely were risking your livelihood in a lot of ways to talk about those type of things. Even when you look back at Charles Barkley, the I am not a role model thing, like how that's crazy, like how controversial that was. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's crazy. So yeah, I can't take away anything from LeBron in that area. Now, one thing I have to talk about, it just came to my mind before we go and before we set, because I know you're also somebody who pays attention to sports. Is Mark Jackson ever going to coach again in the NBA? I know I'm throwing you this one as a curveball.
Dang, yeah, possibly. Because I don't necessarily feel like Mark Jackson. I feel like Mark Jackson was a good coach, right? Like I don't feel like he was, like I don't feel like he was a bad coach. Maybe because there's a lot of teams that I'm sure could use a pretty veteran or pretty well versed coach, but I don't know though. That's a good question. I don't know. I think it would really come down to if he wants to, right? Like.
I mean, he interviewed for the Lakers job as recently, and I honestly thought he was going to get that job. But it seems like every time he does interview, like there's always this, let me not say always, there's been like 2 times since he stopped being the coach of the Warriors where you wait a couple years, things die down, he interviews for a position, and then it's like something with the Golden State Warrior era comes up again, and then he ends up not getting, like, I'm not, I'm a mini conspiracy theorist. I do think that the NBA is blackballing Mark Jackson. I know he said some stuff that, just nowadays and the way that the culture is, like he said some things that it's hard to come back from. But at the end of the day, it's this, like, if I see Steve Nash get another head coaching job and Mark Jackson's there, I may riot because Steve Nash was horrible. Like.
Yeah, because Steve Nash now, initially that was a one for me that I was like, I don't like this pick. Like, I don't think I don't know that he gives me coach, right? Like, I don't, Steve Nash is a great, player and he did his thing and whatnot, but I didn't know if I saw a player's coach, right? And I think those are so important in all sports. Like, you need that coach that really understands and can really, relate to. And although he played basketball, I don't know if that's always a thing, right? Like that just because you played that you'll make a good coach. Because there's a reason why Michael Jordan doesn't coach, right? Like you would think that would be the person that could
Mike
lead
would get
people
so
to the
many
promised land.
texts over on the sideline.
I'm like,
for cussing out his own players, right? It'll be like, listen, I got to give you a technical. It's my player, and Michael Jordan sit over there in his face is like, what the is wrong with you?
Yeah, they're definitely calling HR at that point. So like, probably not gonna work. But I don't know. Like I think he may want to. I think like the NBA is tricky, right? Like the people that they kind of allow to keep teams, and I don't know that he said anything or did anything that, I mean, Ime Udoka just cheated on his wife. You know what I mean? Like,
listen, and did you see her statement today? Did you
see but nobody reached out to her, said anything. And I said, that's pretty.
Now that is messed up. That's real messed up.
You would think somebody, a secretary, somebody would be like, girl,
hey, let me just give her a call to let us know that this is finna come out, because like, that's crazy.
Right. I feel like as a woman, I would have been like on the phone, like, girl, Nia, this news about to break. I just need you because I can't have you out here slipping. Like, I can't. But it's I don't know. He might. I think it would have to really be an organization that is willing to, quote unquote, take a chance, and maybe one that's kind of like under the radar, right? Like that, people aren't really paying attention. Like he can go coach like, I don't know, the Sacramento Kings or something, right? Like nobody's paying attention.
Well, I mean,
no shade to the Sacramento Kings. When's the last time somebody said I got to watch this Kings game? Okay, something like that. But it's really going to just depend on, I say he says forget it and go coach AAU or something, and have fun.
You know what, that would be fun. Like if he did like a something similar, but for basketball that Deion Sanders is doing. Just go coach some. Yeah. And the reason why I say it's blackballing when it comes to Mark Jackson is literally he interviewed for the Lakers job, and then it came out as a controversy that he forced his players to go to church. That's a bad thing? That's what we doing now? This is what we doing.
We could take a lot of stuff, but the Lord, nope. You're doing too much.
Like Phil Jackson used to make people read books to try to motivate them. He brings the team together by making them go to church, and that's a negative thing.
Like, nope. Don't try to give me your Jesus, okay? That's not okay.
That's wild. That's
wild. But like that's not a big deal. But you're probably right though, right? There's probably some other stuff that obviously we're not privy to.
This is true,
right? Because I can't imagine that he wouldn't be able to get a job like somewhere, you know what I mean? And so there's probably some other back office stuff that we'll never know about. But like I think it'd be cool for him to coach like a college team or like some youth kid, and kind of maybe I wouldn't even say work his way back because he may find that that's more of his passion anyway. I don't know. That's a good one though. Now I got to really think about that. You hit me with a doozy.
Hey, listen, I gotta throw them to you every once in a while. Yeah. But all right, that's it. Go ahead and give me your social media. Let's get up out of here.
You can follow me on Twitter at Chrissy Lorena. I think I don't even know my own name. I'm certified hoodie thief though. So if you look that up, that's me. But you can find me there, and where I like to talk about a lot of sports. And specifically football. Go Niners. Just shameless.
Come on now. Get out of here with
it's
that.
Fine. You guys beat us, so it's fine.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And we won one game after that. Like it's been real ugly. It's been real ugly.
But that's it. You can find me there.
You can follow me at CEO Haize, the CEO Haize. Thank you for tuning in to NBA Central. Make sure you send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. But that is it. We out this mug.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.